Welcome in to the premiere episode of CryptoBroz Ep1. I am the CryptoBullGod.
And I am the CryptoBringer.
So we're coming to you live in our own sort of way. This is recorded on September 15th, 2021. Very, very, very exciting times right now in the cryptocurrency space. Very, very excited about starting up the very first podcast here that was really what was originally slated for months ago between my brother and I. So I'm really excited to have you aboard, my brother, the CryptoBringer.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here. This has definitely been a long time in the making. In order to help me relax from a long day at work, my wife poured me quite the strong Manhattan here. I think it's a triple inside a giant beer mug, basically. So I'm ready to rock and roll, man. I'm excited about this. Thank you.
I got an old-fashioned on me as well, so cheers.
Right. Cheers. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that, but I did it. So.
I did. I tapped the microphone. I don't know if that counts, but cheers.
Yeah, well, cheers. Whatever this thing is, I bought it, so sure.
Yeah, cheers to H-bar. All right, so we're not talking about we're not talking about H-bar today. Moving forward, right now, what we're going to be doing for this new podcast is we are going to be dropping episodes at CryptoBullGod on YouTube. I'm also located on Twitter at CryptoBullGod. I'm located on Instagram, TradingView at CryptoBullGod. But my brother and I do have a brand new YouTube channel. It's CryptoBroz. And I'm going to include a link in the description of this video as well as a link to Podbean. Podbean's going to essentially be our outlet to get into the mainstream podcast channels like Spotify, Google Podcasts that we're going to be aiming to do by the end of this year. But for the time being right now, the first several episodes will be dropped on my channel just to get things kicked off. They will be dropped on CryptoBroz on YouTube, and they'll be dropped on Podbean at CryptoBroz. And you can also find my brother on Twitter at
CryptoBringer.
So you can find my brother on there on Twitter as well. Please give him a follow if you appreciate the work that I do to help you out. I'd very much appreciate you give my brother a follow as well. He's been in the space. He'll give you his own background in terms of how long he's been in the space and kind of where he's at in cryptocurrency. But as far as topics that we can look forward to getting into, CryptoBringer, and kind of, chime in here with your own thoughts, because we've spent some time talking about this. I think what we're looking to do really is to bring definitely some humor to the space, which I'm going to credit you more for than myself, because you have a knack for that. And so, but we're going to bring some humor to the space, keep things light, but we're also going to discuss some really fundamental things in this space, maybe delve into some real high-level technical analysis, but we're going to keep things at a level that really, I like to say, keep it stupid simple, keep it in layman's terms, keep it in really simplistic terminology so that the average everyday person can understand why both of us are so excited about the cryptocurrency space. What do you have to add to that?
Well, first I'd like to say, if you can't tell, my brother was laughing there because he blurted out my name at least twice throughout this. And he's like, oh, we're going to use these handles and we're not going to use our real name.
Hey, don't break character. Come on.
Break character? This is what you signed up for. So anyway, yeah, that's why he's laughing so much. But anyway, layman's terms is the key here because, really, my brother's the one with the gift in mathematics. While I can do math, I'm not his level. I think with the opposite side. I'm actually by trade, I'm in IT, and I've been in IT for over 21 years, and it really started with me being a technical writer and a web designer, and a trainer, all three, believe it or not. And I'm used to translating the higher end stuff down to layman's terms, but when it comes to the crypto space, I'm one of those folks that's kicking myself back in 2011, 2012. People wanted me to get in with them and start mining Bitcoin, trying to get a hold of Bitcoin, and I turned it down because it looked no different to me than any form of currency that you could get by in online gaming, and I thought it was a waste of money. boy, am I kicking my own
Yeah,
self
but
right
you know
now
what though?
about that.
You know what though?
Wow.
You know what though? Hearing that though, I could say the same thing because I started really seeing a lot of things about Bitcoin in particular back in 2015, 2014. So you could sit here and have that frame of mind, but I think the more important thing and the thing you should focus your attention to is the fact that you're in the space today and you literally are ahead of 99.5% of people out there. I mean, that's really what I think you should be focused on.
Right, and you know, you got to focus on the positive in that, and that's something my brother has helped me focus on, is more positives than negatives, and that is that, you know, my wife and I got into this space after he harped on us for, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years. He's coming into our house at Christmas time, haven't seen him in 6 to 8 months at least, and he drops this fake Bitcoin on our counter. You remember this date, and he sets it down. Meanwhile, my wife and I are scrambling, trying to get stuff together just to entertain people. You remember this date right here, and this coin that touched the ground. You hold on to this. To this day, my wife still has it in our junk drawer by the dishwasher, and she said, your brother better be right. Now, to be fair, my brother and I have known my wife for close to 17 years, so
Of course.
we can rib one another, but you know.
Yeah, the feeling of comfortability there is quite high. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I'd say we're good there.
Yeah. And by the way, when I dropped you that Bitcoin, I believe Bitcoin was around 30, somewhere between 30. No, it's around 35 to 3,700. So clearly, so far, it seems like what I was saying seemed to be.
And guess what I said
decision.
to my brother at that point? Hey, CryptoBullGod, how the heck can I afford $3,700? I can't buy a Bitcoin. And his response to me, well, CryptoBringer, obviously you haven't looked into this like I asked you to. And didn't I feel like a smacked horse's rear on that one? So I just, went, okay, maybe I need to start looking into this. And that's when it really started. And, my wife and I, we started investing January 1st, right around January 1st of 2020. And I hope that didn't bring on COVID-19, but who knows? That's what we did. It just seems
positivity.
to be.
Remember, positivity. Let's not
the CryptoBringer luck? No.
Yeah, let's not talk of the CryptoBringer luck or the CryptoBullGod luck. There is no such thing as bad luck. So,
but before we deviate on any other topic, there is something I'd just like to throw out there to everyone right now, something that CryptoBullGod and I talked about. We have a variety of topics. Mm-hmm. One of them is we will discuss football or fantasy football. My personal favorite fantasy football analyst out there, Mike Tagliere, is super sick right now in the hospital. He was one of those folks that unfortunately had both vaccinations. He's been on a ventilator in the hospital since August 9th. So if you follow Mike Tagliere over at Fantasy Football Pros, over at FF Pros, you really should give them a follow. He's a great guy. He works really hard over at Fantasy Pros as the lead analyst there for everything they do. He writes the primer over there. His wife is very active on Twitter right now with the hashtag prayers for tags, just trying to get some positivity his way because apparently things aren't going super well right now. So if you're familiar with Mike Tagliere and you've been wondering where he's at right now, just keep him in your prayers and well thoughts. So enough of me straying off topic there.
No. That was very, very nice of you to mention. I'll make sure when I drop a link to this on Twitter, I'll include a link to his account just so people can send their well wishes. And in this moment, as you're saying that, it just makes me think, life is short. Life is short. You definitely have to appreciate and love the people who are around you. It goes quick, especially when you have something happen in your life and it's unexpected. And we've all had things like that happen. It really provides you a moment, hopefully, of clarity to perhaps reorganize your life and gain a different perspective. So, no, definitely, yeah. Thank you for sharing that, and I'll include a link to his account for people. For people who want to drop prayers and well wishes. So, by the way, kind of on a related note, in terms of dropping things, in terms of feedback, for any questions, one of the things that you try things out, you learn from your experiences. When I started off my podcast, I said, hey, I got an email. Drop me an email with any questions. And CryptoBringer knows where I'm going with this one. Well, I kind of learned from that experience, because as much as I deeply appreciate every single person who I interact with, and I sincerely mean that, what I would get is emails that were so long, and this is the type of person I am, and even at work, okay? At work, I'm this way. If I open up an email and it's a fucking novel, I'm closing out of it, all right? I'm not reading it. If it's a long storybook and I open up that email, I'm like, well, don't have time for this, close out of it. Text message that's too long, don't have time for it, close out of it. So what was happening was I was getting really long emails with all these involved questions. I was like, I just don't have time for this. Like, I want to answer these questions. I'm in over my head. So we're not going to be doing that. If you have any questions, literally just drop them in the feed of this podcast, and we would be happy to respond to them in the following podcast. By the way, I almost slipped there. I almost said the following week's podcast. At the moment, we are not looking to do this podcast every week. I think when we initially, and correct me if I'm wrong here, CryptoBringer, but I think what we were looking to do was to drop this once a month, and then we talked a little bit more about that, and we thought, well, maybe that's not enough time. Maybe it should be every other week. So I think we might aim for every other week.
Yeah, I would say every other week, every 3 weeks, somewhere along there. It just depends on, our schedules, and the interest is out. If the interest is out there, and folks obviously we've gone on now for a little while, and we haven't talked squat.
No, we haven't talked jack shit about it. If you're still tuned in, thank you.
yeah, I'm just going to point that out. But apparently I'm supposed to give a shout out to our mother right now. She's texting us.
Shout out to my father, who's going to text me for the blog for people to call into when this thingamajiggy gets started.
Well, they're going to text in, right?
At some point, like we were talking about, this is going to happen to us. If either of us have our own family someday, our children will be looking at us the same way. Like, you have no idea what you're talking about, and you sound ridiculous. Yes.
Oh my God. Well, yeah.
Yeah, that voicemail. Yeah, we listened, just real brief. We're not to go off on too much of a tangent. We listened to a voicemail from our father, who seemed to think that we have a blog and people can call into it, and maybe that they can interact with us on Twitter or texting. I didn't know what was going on in that voicemail. I didn't know what was happening.
I almost brought it up. I almost brought up the voicemail. I almost played it after he said my name and your name, and I almost played it, and I thought, nah, because that's just too much of an insight into the CryptoBullGod's and the CryptoBringer's personal life, and the insanity of my father leaving a voicemail while my mother barks at him in the background, or is just talking about something in the background.
Yeah, this is great that this was brought up, and I'll tell you why. Something that I've tweeted about, and this is related to cryptocurrency. We're actually bringing this back to cryptocurrency. I'm a nobody. CryptoBringer is literally nobody. We grew up in the Northeast, and we grew up in...
Thanks a lot! Well, really helping my self-esteem. Holy God.
Yeah, you're a fucking nobody.
Wow, so cursy.
So, yeah, we've switched spots with that. So,
yeah, we have.
We grew up in the Northeast in this small town. And literally, I mean, a nobody. Like, if you knew who we were as a child growing up, if you went to school with us in public school or college or whatever, you'd know literally we were just an average, what you would call an average person kind of grown up. If we can be successful investing in the cryptocurrency space and make life-changing wealth gains within this space, we're here to help you to do the same thing, to make educated, informed decisions, that are based on your own personal approach to investing, but to help you. If we can do it, anybody can do it. We're nobody special. We're literally nobody special.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've been at the bottom, lost my job in the dot-com bubble burst. I didn't know where I was going to pay the mortgage next. There were some real close times there.
I can hear you rocking.
Oh yeah, I rock a lot. Sorry, I'm a rocker.
I have a visualization right now. I can see it.
You should. So getting this has been a space that I have been obsessively reviewing, but I'm not to the level of my brother. So I want to be able to add that clarification for everyone on a novice level. And here is my gorgeous wife with some more Woodford Reserve to pour into this very sweet drink she made me, because there's a lot of orange juice in there. Just a little more there. That's good. Thank you. Well, there's now bourbon on the carpet. All right. Well, All right. Anyway, go ahead. Continue.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, that's good to know.
Thank you.
I don't know what's going on. Apparently, I'm having a technological moment. By the way, I just wanted to assure you, CryptoBringer, we have been recording the entire time. I had a moment there where I thought we hadn't recorded jack shit. And I felt that, I felt that surge of a rush of heat go through me. But apparently we have two recordings now going. We have the first recording that's still going and the second recording that picked up at a certain spot. So
I would like to point out that the IT guy is not actually running the show here, which could be part of the issue. But you see, the CryptoBringer was just, he was in a bit of a rush today from work. A little nervous, first podcast ever. I've been a column writer in the past, many years ago.
Yeah,
but not a podcaster. Always wanted to do it though. But
yeah,
all right, so how about we go on to Bitcoin and actually talk some crypto here?
Yeah, so we had a couple things that we wanted to talk about as related to related to Bitcoin. You have enough ice in your cup there, sir?
No, that's my metal. That's my metal straw on my wife's old May the 4th be with you mug. My wife is as big a geek as I am, and you are, so.
Oh, wait, I didn't know she was into Star Wars. I thought she was into Star Trek.
Oh, she loves Star Trek, but this is actually from this is something else we're into, a beer event. So
okay.
Yeah, so as you know, but not everyone else knows, and this will be topics for discussion later. Is we're big beer fans. We get beer traded across the country. And different wines, bourbons, scotches. Bourbon scotches and stuff's more my alley than hers, but
right.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. So I have a nice little Manhattan here in honor of our grandfather who passed away unfortunately during COVID, so we've been trying to give him some sort of proper honor and memorial since we never really had.
All right, no more about people dying or passing away. We've hit on two people now. Two people.
Yep.
This is an optimistic, positive podcast, damn it.
CryptoBullGod, rein this back in. Don't tell.
Peace out to all the dead people. All right, so let's rein this back in. So we'll talk a little Scotch whiskey at the end, but let's actually get into cryptocurrency. Yeah. So let's get into Bitcoin and kind of a few things that we wanted to hit on with Bitcoin here. Wanted to kind of talk about Bitcoin specifically. The other thing I wanted to touch on at some point, CryptoBringer, as we're going through this, is I wanted to speak to each of us, just briefly, quickly, how we actually got invested and started into Bitcoin, what spurred our investment interest. But before we kind of get into that, I wanted to kind of talk about market valuation. So specifically, what I wanted to speak to is just how early, when I, mentioned a little while ago that when my brother was looking back on times and, he was kind of cursing himself for not getting invested earlier, I made the comment like, look at the positive. Like, you're ahead of 99.5% of people. Why do I feel that confident? First off, let's go back 4 years ago. One of the things from a technical analyst perspective, because, my bread and butter, really where I excel, I have a lot of good fundamental knowledge, which got me into this space, but I also have a very firm footing within technical analysis. For
the love of God, let's hit pause there for a second, and let me assure you, I've heard good old CBG mention this in his podcast multiple times. I assure you, this man sacrificed all of his 20s and a chunk of his 30s for his career. And I'd like to point out, there were a ton of parties he was invited to, get-togethers, football Sundays. No, CryptoBringer, I gotta study. Or the famous no answer. Phone calls, text messages, emails. That was it. No response. It was just CBG studying. So he did put in the time. Oh my God.
Well, thank you for your own way for bringing that to light. So maybe we'll actually start there very quickly. So
holy crap.
So I always tend to look at things positively, and I don't have any regrets looking back on my life. But yes, I spent all of my 20s and my early 30s getting credentialed as an FSA. So an FSA is a Fellow of the Society of Actuaries. So it's put me in a unique position to be in kind of a niche space career-wise. I love my career. It's an awesome career. I do really enjoy what I do. And one of the things that I found when I was done learning, because one of the things you do to become credentialed as an actuary, as my brother was alluding to there in his own way, is you do a lot of self-studies. And it's something that I think in your life, when you're trying to accomplish something that is extraordinary, there are going to be people that just don't get it. They don't understand. And I just did a ton of studying, a ton of self-studying for these exams. They were brutal. And when I was done, I felt like I had all the time in the world. I had all the time in the world to do whatever I want, and I missed learning. So the next pocket of learning information I went to was technical analysis. I paid money for professional trading classes to learn how to read charts. I spent thousands of hours literally doing paper trading and real trading to learn how to actually read stock charts. And then what happened was I read a publication. I forget what it was, but it was about Bitcoin. It was about Dash, Litecoin, XRP. It was about all these different cryptocurrency projects. And my interest just spurred, and it was like a rabbit hole. And I just went on a fundamental binge on Bitcoin to really understand what Bitcoin was. And from there, everything just kind of took over, and I just started learning more and more and more and more. And it was like from the Matrix. That's how I would describe it. I swallowed the red pill, I think it was. And I went down this rabbit hole of just learning all the fundamentals about Bitcoin, other projects like Litecoin and Dash and XRP. I learned a lot about, and many other projects. And I've been using my technical analysis to benefit my investment strategy. But it's interesting how the chain of events happen. I become credentialed as an actuary. I've always had an opportunity or an outlet to learn, and I love learning, and I love self-studying and challenging myself. And then it bled into studying technical analysis, and then it bled over into cryptocurrencies. I could not imagine my world at this point without having the understanding that I have of cryptocurrencies. I have such a love and passion for it. I feel like at this point, to be brutally honest about it, I feel like my love and passion for cryptocurrency exceeds actuarial science, exceeds what I do as an actuary. Just to be honest. So that's kind of my own story, and that's kind of where I'm at in life. So CryptoBringer, what made you start to invest in the market and made you actually plunge in January of 2020, like you mentioned?
Well, it was a mix of things. So some of you may be relating to loss of your job around the good old COVID times, and which we're still in, but around COVID. I was in a job that I loved some of the people I worked with, but it was a brutal job on my mental and physical health after a while, especially the last couple years, and especially the past 8 months or so. So with that being said, once I was let go, I really sat back, and it was really CBG that said, you need to sit back and just take a week and enjoy and really think about things. And I started to. And I analyzed some things, talked some things over with my wife. And what little money, very little money, that we had set back once I was able to pull myself out of the gutter after about a couple weeks. Because, you have a job after 17 years. When I was laid off before, I went 10 months without a job. And I barely was able to keep the roof over my head. This time, I was able to get a job after a month. I was very fortunate.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I said to my wife, we talked about it, and I said, I'm a planner, So I planned to the point of over planning. It took me, I think, 5 years till I bought my 75-inch Samsung TV. I said to my wife, I said, I want something better for us. I want what we both want. I want the beach. I want warm weather. The first question, I remember answering this way, and my parents still say it. You know, we were on anywhere. It was, what do you want to do with your life? I want to be a beach bum, and I want to write books. That's what I want to do. Well, I'm never going to be able to do that doing what I do now. But the current employer I have now is significantly better. It's actually really fun going to work a lot of days.
Blessing in disguise. Blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it is, which is what CBG said. But also, it's time to make some smart investments, because you know what, that 401k is not paying off from my previous job. So it's how I do not want to work until I'm 70, 75. I'm in my early 40s now. I don't want to be working into my 70s, but that's the projected retirement age for me, and for my wife. And you know, that's not reality. So my wife and I, we started doing some reading. Me much more so than my wife. My wife hates math altogether, and we would talk about it. So I would sum it up to her, much like I do fantasy football. I do all the reading, and we talk about it later. And we talked about it, and we were in agreement it was time. So the very, very little money that we had, we started investing. And then I started taking money from my paycheck and going from there. And you know, over the span of a year and a half or whatever, I was able to accumulate. I should say I was investing before I was laid off, but it wasn't anything significant. After I got laid off, it really whipped me into doing it.
Well, that's actually a perfect segue, because that's such a perfect segue, because what we're on the fringe right now of is and I've said this so many different times, is a generational wealth transfer opportunity. Look, at heart, I'm a very conservative person. I'm a very conservative person, just like you are, CryptoBringer, because of our upbringing. And I'm also naturally a conservative person as an actuary. We're stereotyped typically as pretty conservative people. But based on all the education and knowledge that I've acquired over the past 4 years, and I've just delved into this and just studied the market so much, there is no opportunity that we are on the precipice of right now that we have not seen. The most comparable point would be the early days, 1996, of the internet.
Actually, I actually want to challenge you on something there.
Go ahead.
Like you said. You're talking about, and I do believe ultimately that's what it is.
Yep.
And I think we've clearly stated that I do not have the background you do. So when you say generational wealth transference, which is, you know, in your intro on your podcast, in your YouTube and all of that, and I certainly do believe it. For someone like me, and I believe there are many people out there like me, in fact, as this market continues to grow and the market valuation of crypto in general is in the trillions now. Clearly, there are people in the market like myself, and even less educated people such as my wife who are in it. When we see the market fluctuate, which is obviously natural, but even more so natural for a younger market, how do you feel things like current events play into that? I know your thing is to always sit, like, show me a chart and I'll tell you a story, but how would you alleviate someone such as myself or my wife that goes, oh my god, look at how high we went on our valuation, and all of a sudden we just took a 57% hit, bam, out of nowhere. I drove to work 20 minutes later, my portfolio's down 50+%. What the heck happened? How would you help alleviate people to understand that this is a normal thing, and understanding things such as the blessed Senator Warren and what she's attempting to do right now with the crypto space? How would you help people understand and maybe soothe their mind on that? Because there's even times, I fully admit, where I sit there and I shake my head and I go, what the heck's next, man? Like, what's going to happen next? Is this still okay? Are they going to... Yep. Or are they really gonna crap on the market now with regulations? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, what you just shared is so such an important thing to talk about. And unfortunately, what you did was you talked about Senator Warren. So just very quickly, since you brought her up, I have no disdain more for someone more than her. She has a hidden agenda. She has a hidden agenda.
There certainly seems
lobbyists. Yes, I totally see through the smoke and mirrors. But anyway, what you're raising in all seriousness are very good thoughts and questions. So what I would say to you, I'm thinking of a couple things. First off, it's very hard to relate to the average person, and that's when your
biceps are that big, right?
When literally your biceps are as big as somebody's face. No, I mean seriously though, I mean this with no disrespect. I mean it when I say the average person. I don't mean that with any disrespect. It's hard to communicate to the average person, explain to someone, you show me a chart and I'll tell you the story, but that is what I believe. And my line of thinking, because it really evolved after Hillary Clinton as a senator tweeted about pharmaceutical companies. And so the quick backdrop on this is that back in like 2014 or 15, tweeted something about pharmaceutical companies and all these pharmaceutical stocks, because I used to be a lot more heavily invested in the stock market when I was a lot more in fundamentals and some technicals, but a lot more in fundamentals. She tweeted and my stock portfolio on pharmaceuticals went down like 30%, whatever I was invested in. And I thought to myself at that point, it was a point of frustration. I said, there's got to be a way to do things differently, to invest in a way that someone's tweet isn't going to impact me like this. And that's kind of what spurred me to take a different path on an investment philosophy in terms of technical analysis. At that point, actually thinking about it, I wasn't even using technicals at all. I was investing based on fundamentals. So what I would say to you is a couple things. First off, yes, you show me a chart and I'll tell you the story. A chart, without getting very technical, the reason that technical analysis exists and the reason I can draw chart patterns and talk about price indicators, it's because historical data has lent itself to a credible result that has resulted in all of this. People's human emotions and price data feeds into everything that culminates, that accumulates into historical data. And we use that historical data based on based on human emotion and based on price data. We use all that information to make informed decisions about current price action and future price action. And as a data scientist, as a statistician that I am at heart, it makes too much sense to me not to use that information at the very heart and matter of what I do. The second thing I would say to you is there are black swan events. The biggest black swan events, the biggest black swan event in cryptocurrency that
before you go on, what is a black swan event?
A black swan event is like what happened to Ripple in December of 2020. A black swan event is an event that you just can't see coming. It's a major event. It comes out of nowhere, seemingly. It comes out of nowhere and has a significant impact on the market. That's what happened to XRP. Okay, XRP, when it was going up, and this is going to be either we can do a podcast on this another day. I'm planning on actually doing a video for myself on this another day. On XRP and Ripple on the price chart history. But when it took a dump from 65 cents or wherever it was at all the way down to 15 cents, that was so freaking traumatic, and it was a black swan event. No one saw that SEC lawsuit coming that would have that much of an impact, and it getting delisted from exchanges. That's a black swan event. So when you bring up questions about news events and how can I read between the lines and kind of understand some of these news events, what we have to understand is, number one, there is no 100% certainty in the market. That is what I always say. There's no 100% certainty in life besides living and dying. Number two, at the heart of what I do personally is I look at a chart and it tells me a story, and it's that simple. There's no news data. You show me a chart and I tell you a story. When I look at a 4-year Bitcoin cycle and I'm telling people on Twitter, look, my main hypothesis is Bitcoin's going to be astronomically higher between maybe 150 and 250 or less than $300,000 by the end of this year, as crazy as that sounds, that's based on using prior historical data to make an informed decision. There's no guarantee, But when I say, November, December, maybe October, but November, December, Bitcoin going that high and the rest of the market following shortly thereafter or in line, that's based on using historical data. And the third thing, the last thing I would say to you, CryptoBringer, is the news events, which you have to understand, and this comes with experience. There are many publications, mass media outlets that put out publications to deceive you. I know that sounds crazy. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if you actually do a search on JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, look at how many times they flip-flop on their positions with cryptocurrency. I trolled the hell out of Scott Metter from wherever the heck he is, Blackstone or wherever he's from, because he's back and forth. Bitcoin's going to 250,000. Oh, look out for Bitcoin volatility. The dude from CNBC talking about this head and shoulders technical pattern that wasn't even a technical pattern. It was a horribly drawn pattern that didn't make any sense. And the technical target on it was below zero. It didn't make any sense. But the point is there's mass media FUD put out there because people want to scale. They want to scale out the retail investor. Think about this intuitively, just for 1 second, and I'll stop talking. Think about this for 1 second. If you believe that this was truly a space for generational wealth transfer opportunity, and you could, if you invested right, you could retire in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. Well, if you knew that, things are not going to be that easy, right? Most people are going to be shaken out. Most people are not going to be successful. Why? Because most people will be emotional about their investments and get derailed by headlines like that. You have to be able to have the experience and knowledge to see through all of the FUD, as they call it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, all of the propaganda, all of the smoke and mirrors that is put out there. It's tough. It's challenging. China goes one way or the other. They're against crypto. They're for crypto. They're against crypto. They're for crypto.
All the time.
Jesus
all the
almighty.
time.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
It's frustrating for someone like yourself, for someone like a lot of our listeners who are new. It's very frustrating. I get that. Is that helpful?
It does, and I feel like, and I want to touch on a couple different topics here that you mentioned. One, and this is going to help add some brevity here. You mentioned something similar to the Chewbacca defense, which is to say, in a jury trial, a Chewbacca defense is a legal strategy in which criminal defense lawyer tries to confuse the jury rather than refute the case of the prosecutor. It is an intentional distraction of obfuscation. Do you watch South Park, CryptoBullGod?
I used to watch a lot of South Park back in the day. I haven't watched it
Do you
recently.
remember the Chewbacca defense? This is one of the original.
I don't. Off the top of my head.
It comes from Chef Aid. As a matter of fact.
Oh, well, I should remember it, but I don't remember it.
You should, yes. Of course, it mocks the O.J. Simpson murder trial. And they're referencing the Chewbacca defense. And you were there pounding the table, and first I thought you sounded like Dad. Then you kept saying, it does not make sense, and you're slamming things, and all I thought about was Johnny Cochran and the Chewbacca defense. So I looked that up on Google while you were going off on your tangent there. In good reason to go off on the tangent, but I had to find that for our listeners. Second, you mentioned technical and fundamentals. So I want to go back to that. Because as a person, as a layman, okay, and again, when you're talking to the base that you are, can you just give us in a quick 30 to 60 second snapshot, what is the difference, the main difference between a technical and a fundamental analysis?
Technical analysis is using past historical price data to make an informed decision about current and future price action. Fundamental analysis is studying the underlying aspects of something that you're investing in that fundamentally make it attractive to invest in.
What is the difference between technical and fundamental? I understand what you said previously, where technical is an analyzation of historical data and moving forward. But fundamental, it almost sounded like they jarbled together. And you said there is a significant difference. So can you clarify that? Because honestly, I do not know. And if I don't know, I figure many do not.
Yeah, many listening don't understand because this is a key distinction. I love that I can use data, just data. There's no emotion involved. There's no studying the underlying fundamentals of a project or a stock or whatever. I just literally stare at a chart and look at price data, and it tells me everything I need to know if I should be buying or selling. That's technical analysis. It's just price action. Meaning, I'll give you an example. I don't have to like, from a fundamental perspective, what, from a cryptocurrency fundamental, what it brings to the space and what it does and the value it adds. Ethereum Classic. I don't have to like it. But from a technical perspective, it may be setting up based on price data to be an epic entry point. Okay? Now, that is different from a fundamental perspective. A fundamental perspective is looking at a pharmaceutical company, for instance, that is... you love the fundamentals behind it because it has some backing by some large institutions. It's looking to cure PTSD. You may look at a cryptocurrency project. It may be a rival to blockchain technology like Hedera, Hashgraph, HBAR. So that's fundamentals. You're purely investing based off of a thesis of the project or company itself based on something that they provide to the market where there's value being added. Whereas from a technical perspective, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just look at a chart and price data, and I just use all that information to do buy and sell entries.
I just felt it'd be good to help our listeners out with some of that, because I know sometimes you bounce between in your podcast, technical and fundamental.
Yep.
And I'm guilty of, as you've stated many times, this is the podcast you want to listen to or you want to watch uninterrupted. And the times that I'm uninterrupted, I'm either driving to work or I'm on the toilet, and I'm not listening to you most of the time on the toilet. There has been a few times where that's occurred, but most of the time,
TMI.
98%. Yeah, I share. I'm an overshare. 98% of the time, I'm driving to work. I'm driving to work, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm listening to your voice. And let me tell you, at 6:30 in the morning, you better start yelling, because otherwise I might just steer off because I'm not really awake.
Fundamentals, make no mistake about this, and then we're going to get off this topic. Make no mistake. Fundamentals is what got me personally into this space, okay? And it ultimately drives the larger positions that I have in the space. But technicals is what aids me in my overall investment philosophy, if that makes sense. So I basically utilize both.
Okay, so you're utilizing cold, hard facts versus anything outside of that. Data-driven metrics is what you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm an actuary, right? That's what math, I'm a math guy. Numbers, it's a universal language. That's the beauty about it. Let's move on real quick to market valuation. One quick thing we wanted to hit on was market valuation versus 4 years ago. This is one thing that's going to help you to appreciate how early we are. December of 2017, okay? Just to give you an idea of how early we are, let's just take a look at Bitcoin and let's ask ourselves, what was the market capitalization of Bitcoin? Well, the market capitalization, when it peaked, okay, I'm going to do some basic math here to quickly figure this out. The market capitalization of Bitcoin was approximately $330 billion. Okay, it hit basically $20,000. Now, if we look at the current market capitalization of Bitcoin as of today in mid-September 2021, it's nearly $1 trillion. And for me personally, I think this will top somewhere between $3 to $5 trillion. Okay, so let's pick the midpoint. Let's just say it's $4 trillion. So that's 4,000 divided by 330. That's a 12x. Meaning in 4 years, the market capitalization of Bitcoin has done a 12x. And if you look in the entire space and you look at a lot of what we call altcoins, all altcoins means is any cryptocurrency project other than Bitcoin. That's all it means. It's an alternative cryptocurrency coin. That's all it means. If you look at the growth of those projects, many of them which have been here for a little while, their growth rates will exceed that of Bitcoin. And furthermore, one last point before I get your thoughts, CryptoBringer, there's a very good website which I was briefly attempting to mention before we went off our 30-minute tangent. There's a website. If you go to visualcapitalist.com, and then there should be something you can click on that says all of the world's money and markets in one visualization 2020. This is a little dated. This is from April of 2020. Okay, so this is a little over a year old, but it still illustrates the point. Cryptocurrency at that point was valued at $244 billion. Now, at this point, if I go to CoinMarketCap right now, the entire cryptocurrency market cap looks like it's $2.2 trillion. So in over a year, it's far exceeded that. But the point is still crystal clear. If we look at things like, I just tweeted this out today, the U.S. budget deficit in the same time period in April of 2020, again, cryptocurrency at that point was worth $244 billion. The U.S. budget deficit, because we love to spend money and there's no true deficit ceiling, was
keep printing.
Was $3.8 trillion. Another topic for another day, the fiat dollar. $3.8 trillion. Let's go down to gold. Gold at that point was $10.9 trillion. Stock markets, $89.5 trillion. Where is real estate? Global? Okay, this is awesome. Keep in mind, today, and again, these figures are from April of 2020. The cryptocurrency market was less than $0.5 trillion. Not even $1 trillion at this point. Global real estate markets were valued at $281 trillion. And the technology that we're talking about today, the disruptive technology that we're talking about today isn't just a currency. It's disruptive technology that will be interwoven into so many facets of your life that you won't even realize it. It'll be like the internet. You don't even realize a lot of the technologies that are all around you that you realize today. These are topics, again, this is like an olive branch. There's so many different topics that we'll get into in later podcast episodes. But the point is when you look at the total market capitalization of the entire cryptocurrency space, what it should tell you when you relate it to other money portions of the world that are weighted in dollars and what they're worth, we are so early. The market is so tiny. It's so tiny. It's so small. You're so early.
What I think is clear to understand is that this is absolutely disruptive technology, and I think CBG will agree with this as well, is that we will continue to talk about this disruptive technology and the benefits of what these altcoins bring, not just Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. These other altcoins can bring to the world in general. I guarantee you that we will be discussing this in the future as well.
Yeah, and Bitcoin, to that point though, CryptoBringer, Bitcoin is usually the first thing that brings people into the space. You learn about Bitcoin, which actually I want to quickly touch on some of the properties.
Yeah, that's everyone's garden drug.
Yeah. It is. It's
the gateway drug. Sorry, not garden. See, everyone can tell I don't do drugs because I said garden. I said garden drug.
Do you want to know? Do you want to know
gateway drug?
Do you want to know how? Do you want to know how people in South Florida know I don't do drugs? You want to know how? No, I don't do marijuana.
Oh,
yeah, clearly you don't do marijuana. No one says marijuana. Yeah, but Bitcoin, I mean, Bitcoin is usually what you hear from people that initially gets them into the space. And then you have very close-minded, unintelligent individuals that become maximalists and think Bitcoin is the be-all, end-all, which, in my opinion, I think is stupidity and moronic. And then you have people who branch out and they learn about other cryptocurrency technologies that have real-world use cases that we'll get into that are alternatives to Bitcoin.
I think HBAR absolutely does. And again, we're not giving investment advice and want to make that very clear.
No, none of this is
not giving investment advice. It's just because why would any of you listen to me about Josh Gordon in 2016 and 17? Why? If you did, you would have won 1 week matchups. That's about it.
Dude,
not seasons.
If we had started a podcast on fantasy football and we led off with Josh Gordon, I don't think this podcast would be very successful. I don't think this podcast...
We'll find out if it is. We've been
What about-
going on for an hour and 20 minutes. We'll see
about-
if people are still listening.
What about Matt Jones? What about Matt Jones? What about motherfucking
Wow.
Matt Jones?
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Really going to do that?
Yep.
How about picking the Detroit Lions defense over the Philadelphia Eagles? You know how many games you cost us there?
You're never gonna let me live that down. Yeah, I still remember that actually.
Look,
Yeah.
Matt Jones was a kick to the crotch. I'm not going to lie about that.
Let's get into some of the specific properties of Bitcoin and why it is so disruptive. Because, you know, we're sitting here saying, oh, this is disruptive technology, blah, blah. We haven't provided any supporting evidence as to why it is. And what specifically, for me personally, and I'm sure for my brother as well, what got us into the space. So the first big thing I would say about Bitcoin and why it is so technologically revolutionary is it's peer-to-peer. There's no intermediary. I want you to think for a second. When there is an exchange of value of goods, when there's an exchange of value of currency, what I would say, topic for another day, there is a big difference between currency and money, topic for another day. But when there's an exchange of currency, and I'm giving you so for example, CryptoBringer, if I were to send you today, because you're located geographically than me, if I were to send you $20, how would I do it? Well, I might use what would I use? PayPal or Zelle? Is it Zelle?
I don't know, Dad. Why don't you text it to me over a MoneyGram?
I forget what Cash App. I don't know. You can use different stuff,
for
right?
the love of God, there's lots of different
Yeah,
ones.
there's lots of different things.
Yeah, Venmo, Zelle,
Venmo
PayPal,
was the one I was trying to think of, which is the one I
Yeah.
use. Yeah. If you go to a retail, what happens? The most commonly accepted form of payment is credit card, right? When you use your credit card, what happens? Well, you swipe your credit card. Visa, okay, what happens is because the merchant's using Visa as an example, could be MasterCard, could be anybody. But when they use Visa, they charge something to the merchant. The merchant's now responsible to pay something to Visa. The bill goes on to your credit card, okay? So now there's an interaction between you and your credit card company. And now in order to pay that credit card bill off, you have to go to your bank. Your bank supposedly holds your money. Topic for another day. They hold your money. And until you actually take the money from your bank and pay the credit card company, you know, your money's going to be sitting in an outstanding debt obligation on your credit card. The point is there's all these different intermediaries that operate between you and a transaction. The awesome thing that Bitcoin introduced was no intermediary. If I want to have a transaction between my brother and I, boom, it's peer-to-peer. I send him Bitcoin, he receives my Bitcoin. A merchant, if I want to buy a rare X-Men comic book, that just came off the cusp right now. If I want to buy a rare X-Men comic book and I'm in a comic shop, boom, I send that person Bitcoin. It's peer-to-peer. There's no intermediary. There's no one in between taking a cut of the money. It's literally in between two people. That's it. It's the most seamless way to interact with someone. It's decentralized. Bitcoin is completely decentralized in the sense that there's no central body that is governing the transaction. Bitcoin itself, okay, is essentially the easiest way you can think of it. It's computer code and mathematics. That's what it is. And it utilizes something called blockchain technology, which is an accounting system, which is formulated. Think of a spider web. Think of a spider web in your head, okay? A spider web, and you have all these computers, okay? All these systems that are comprised in the spider web. And all of these computers, based on algorithms and formulas of computer code, every single one of them, not just a few of them, every single one is responsible for keeping an accounting ledger and validation of the transaction. So the network is responsible to validate every single transaction that goes in and out. There's no human touch to it. It's trustless. There's literally mathematics and computer code that's governing everything. The other important thing to point out is that, and this is a very big one, there's a finite supply. So Bitcoin,
that's a big one.
That's a big one because the United States dollar, the United States dollar for another day, we'll talk about it, does not have a finite supply. The government at will can literally print funny bunny money and just pay for any obligation that they see fit. And we are literally trusting the government with the currency that we hold. Okay, topic for another day.
And just to take a moment and pause on that, for someone such as myself and people of the layman world, think about that for a second. You have a medical bill that's $10,000. You could go on a payment plan, or you could just print $10,000. No problem. That's essentially what the government's doing. They're printing $10,000. They're paying off that medical bill. Why go on a payment plan? There's no need. There's no stress. We're just going to print some more money. Very different from what Bitcoin is providing us. And it's a very interesting technology. And again, this goes down the rabbit hole where I ultimately don't believe it's the grandfather of cryptocurrency. But I ultimately don't believe it's the best cryptocurrency out there. But that's a topic for another day of discussion. Perhaps a top 10 discussion that we could have on the podcast. But please feel free to continue, CBG.
Yeah, and drop any comments that you have in the feed, by the way, as we're continuing here, because that is...
If you're still here.
If you're still here after 70 minutes. I mean, no, but in all seriousness, I mean, that is a good topic for another day, because it is the first form of technology that came out, and other technologies will come out which will far be superior to Bitcoin. And we'll kind of talk about how the narrative has changed with Bitcoin and other technologies that exist that are far superior to Bitcoin from a technological standpoint. But the point is, Bitcoin, which spurred out of the great financial crisis, okay, go read the white paper, just Google Bitcoin white paper, which gives you a description of the purpose of Bitcoin and how it operates, okay? The point is we wanted to create, because what has happened through time, okay, without going into too much detail, we've put all of our trust into government officials to run our monetary system.
Hold on a second. Oh, crypto babe, I need some aluminum foil. I need to get my hat on. Go ahead, CBG. Go ahead. I need to get that hat on my head to protect myself. Continue. Thank you.
You son of a
bitch. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
So what has happened is we've put all of our trust into people, humans, fallible humans, okay?
That's
to
why
run
we
our
need
monetary
T1000s.
system. And so an artificial intelligence will get there. But no. But in all seriousness, this technology, it was spurred by all that stuff. And someone, Satoshi Nakamoto, everybody's heard of him. This white paper came out, and what it was looking to do was to create a trustless, decentralized form of computer code and mathematics to create a monetary system, monetary value that people could interchange between each other seamlessly with no intermediary. We don't need a bank. This is why banks fear Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technology. We don't need a bank. You can literally, this is the other value behind Bitcoin. You can be your own bank. Okay, I own a nano ledger. That nano ledger enables me, okay, to take Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency off of Coinbase or Binance, stick it onto my ledger. You can't access my cryptocurrency. It's on the blockchain. The blockchain, which is an accounting system, okay, it's not actually stored on the physical device, but the blockchain, the way you can think of it, or the ledger, the way you should think of it, it's a key. It's a key. And you stick the key into the keyhole. The keyhole is the actual blockchain accounting system, and you open up the value that is stored within your nano ledger. Is what I'm trying to say.
I didn't know if we were starting to talk about the gatekeeper and I'm sorry, it was the gatekeeper and whatever from Ghostbusters. I didn't know if this was turning sexual. I didn't know where you were going with that for a second, so I was just continuing to drink my. 10-story Manhattan from my wife. Oh my God.
But this is the value. This is the value. Good. Put yourself on mute, CryptoBringer. Let me finish my thought. Let me finish my thought, or I'm gonna lose my train of thought here, because you're gonna derail me. No, the thing is, as an actuary, okay, you have to understand. You heard the distinction between my brother and I. My brother is a very intelligent person in his own way, right? He's very into technical writing. He's a very brilliant writer, really funny guy, and he's very smart. Even with with computer-related things, he's a lot smarter than I am. But from a technical and mathematical perspective, the reason that this was so attractive to me is because mathematics and computer code is what essentially governs the technology and the value that cryptocurrency and Bitcoin brings to the space. You have a network of computers that validate everything. The other thing they do, and they track every single transaction and validate it. The other thing real quick that I wanted to hit on with this technology, it eliminates something, Bitcoin eliminates something very important called the double spend problem. If I go out and I counterfeit dollar bills or I counterfeit gold, okay, I actually introduce false value into the monetary supply of the US dollar or the gold supply, right? You can't do that with Bitcoin. The network of transactions, remember that spider web, the spider web of computers, all of those computers that validate the transactions eliminate the double spend problem. There can't be two transactions coming into the same value. I can't say, okay, say for example, I own a Bitcoin and I attempt to make two transactions with the same Bitcoin. The network will not allow me to do it. It will only accept the first transaction that it validates, and it will invalidate the second transaction. So it eliminates what's called the double spend problem. You can't create more supply than what is available. The other thing I didn't get to hit on, because the CryptoBringer interjected with some humor there, was the finite supply. So the finite supply is the fact that they call it mining. So what happens is all of the computers are competing to solve complex mathematical equations. And when the problem is solved, new Bitcoins are mined or created. But it is mathematically dictated that's only going to happen a finite number of times within a finite number of time, within a finite time span. And there's something called the halving. So every 4 years, the reward, the amount of Bitcoin that is rewarded to someone that solves that complex mathematical equation, it is halved. So let's say, for instance, if you solve the mathematical equation, again, hypothetical example to make it simple. Let's say today you are awarded 10 Bitcoin, okay? That is halved 4 years from now to 5, and then 4 years from then to 2.5, 4 years then to 1.25. So it's a form of inflationary control to slowly span out the amount of Bitcoin that is put into supply, but there is a finite supply that is put into effect for Bitcoin. And I think I don't know the year off the top of my head, but there is a year where the top supply for Bitcoin is reached. But the point is, there is a finite supply. And the very last concept I wanted to hit on with Bitcoin was it being divisible. Something that a lot of people struggle with is they'll look at the dollar value of Bitcoin and they'll say, oh my God, it's so expensive. It's $40,000 or it's $50,000. You could take 100 United States dollars or whatever currency you use, and you can buy Bitcoin. Okay, you can own fractions of a Bitcoin. They're called Satoshis. So it's divisible. You shouldn't look at the United States dollar value of one whole Bitcoin and deem it to be expensive. That's a very uneducated way. No offense. It's an uneducated way to look at it. Because what you really want to do is when you're evaluating how expensive Bitcoin is, you want to ask yourself, what's the market capitalization value? Well, again, we already touched on this. The market capitalization of something that is supposed to be a peer-to-peer exchange of value globally in the entire world, it's like less than $1 trillion. That's what it is. I don't care if it's $40,000, $50,000, or $500,000. The point is, look at the market capitalization and understand you can own fractions of a Bitcoin. I own fractions of a Bitcoin. I don't own 5 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin or 30 Bitcoin. I own something dot something something. I own fractions of a Bitcoin. So hopefully that's helpful to help you to understand all of the unique aspects of Bitcoin that make it such a revolutionary form of an interchangeable form of value that we have. It's digital. And I guess one last thing I would say, and then I would ask the CryptoBringer to interject here because I've been rambling.
No, you have. Oh, no, I've never noticed.
So one last thing I would say is that I understand, because this was the same thing for me. One of the hardest things to understand with Bitcoin is conceptually that you can't touch it, you can't feel it, you can't see it. But just think for a second, how many things in your life that you place value on are digital? For you that are within, and I would know this for my audience, if you're the same audience listening to this podcast, we're around the same demographic. So, as you know, you used to listen to cassette tapes, then CDs, and then digital forms of audio. You don't own DVDs anymore, right? You download digital forms of movies on Netflix or Amazon Prime or wherever the case is, right? Everything is digital. So just because you can't touch it or see it or feel it or whatever the case is, it's still a valuable commodity, right? So I think a lot of people struggle with the fact that they're so used to, having a dollar bill in their wallet. The point is people are used to translating value to something they can touch, see, and feel. And it's a lot different when you're talking about something that is value is based upon computer code and mathematics. It's just a hard concept for people to initially grasp onto, I think.
I agree with you, and I think...
Wait. I gotta go to the bathroom. Hold on a second. I gotta pause this. Hold on a second.
So will you check your fucking text message? I texted you like 15 minutes ago.
I'll edit this out.
Oh, for fuck's sake. All right, I'm getting up to piss.
I gotta pee real soon.
Yeah, so do I.
So in summary, what I was explaining there for about 15 minutes was all of the intrinsic qualities that Bitcoin has to lead it towards being such a disruptive technology, and opening up the gateway essentially towards other cryptocurrency technologies that will be interwoven into other sectors of everyday life. So just real quick before I bring it back to CryptoBringer, the key points that I wanted to hit on: there's no intermediary, there's no bank, there's no government that's involved between transactions. It's peer-to-peer, directly from one person to another, whether it's retail or an individual. It's decentralized. There's no central authority governing Bitcoin. There's a finite supply, which helps to control inflation. It's divisible. You can buy fractions of a Bitcoin. Bitcoin helps to solve the double spend problem. Okay, there's no false Bitcoins that can be put into the system. Okay, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. We can't interject multiple of one Bitcoin or multiple of divisible Bitcoins into the system. It solves the double spend problem through blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is at the core of Bitcoin. What is it? It's a spider web. It's a spider web of all sorts of many computers that are decentralized in nature. They're all solving mathematical problems in order to mine Bitcoin, but they all are decentralized in nature, and they all, come together to form a ledger to validate the transactions for Bitcoin. The last point that I would say is that everything, when you think about every form of technology at your fingertips, it's all been digitized, okay? Computer code and mathematics is the foundation of Bitcoin. We do not need to rely upon humans. It's trustless, okay? Mathematics and computer code dictate the finite supply and movement of Bitcoin. And you can be your own bank. You can get a hard wallet. Bitcoin, which was the first technology that I personally became very, very familiar with, it got me into the space, got me very involved. And like I said, it was like the Matrix. If you've ever watched the Matrix where you were given the blue pill or the red pill, I mean, this to me was clear as day that the technology here was revolutionary and something that, I mean, I think people years from now are going to laugh that we ever did anything differently. And so with that, CryptoBringer, do you have anything else to add before we get to our last topic here?
I don't. I feel that the wonders of modern editing technology are amazing. And as just a sidebar joke to the listeners that we have for this our first official podcast, this was about an hour and 20 minutes, at least, sidebar conversation. That was just about nothing that anyone would really care about, Star Trek, whatever. But it was just funny because it just deviated and spiraled off. And it all started with a simple bathroom break. So, yeah, no, I have nothing further to add. So I think we can move on to topic number 3.
All right, sounds good. So for our last topic here, and I do want to reiterate before we get to this last topic, this first episode has been awesomeness at its best. So I'm looking forward to future weeks of doing this. So this is really, just to close things out here, this is a Scotch discussion, and I'll call it a Scotch/whiskey discussion. And really what we're looking to do here is for the year 2021, each of us separately, individually, is giving our own independent recommendation for Scotch or whiskey to try out for those that would really appreciate that. So I'll kick things off here. So I feel a little torn. Those that are familiar, you know I've advertised that I will be celebrating the culmination of this bull cycle with the Johnny Walker Blue Label Ghost and Rare whiskey. Now, I have not tried that, so that cannot be part of my recommendation. So, that being said...
Sounds like you need to fly that back home with the CryptoBullGod and share it with the CryptoBringer and the Crypto Babe so we can understand how amazing that is.
Fuck you, come down here.
Wow! Keeping it safe for the kids, alright.
So I'll ship you some. This year is so far going according to plan, so I'll just ship you some. So my recommendation for this year, this should come as no surprise for those that are subscribed to my channel and have looked at the photo that is on my YouTube channel. I am going to recommend, is my 2021 recommendation for whiskey, Hibiki Suntory whiskey. And what's interesting about this is it says, if you actually look at the box here, it says Japanese Harmony. And Harmony, as all of you hopefully are familiar with, Harmony 1 is part of the Holy Crypto Trinity. So that is interesting in itself. But Hibiki Suntory whiskey is my recommendation. And honest to God, before I turn it over to CryptoBringer, this recommendation came to me from none other than Alessio Rastani, who is a well-respected technical analyst within the space. So he turned me on to it. I tried it. Very smooth. Very smooth. Love it. This is something I drink straight. I do not mix it with anything. I do not make any mixed drinks with it. I drink it straight, either on the rocks or without. I could go either way depending on my mood, but very, very good whiskey. Hibiki Suntory whiskey. So, CryptoBringer, I turn it over to you.
So, for me, this will come as no surprise to the CryptoBullGod. I am going to recommend a Scotch that is aged in sherry casks. It should be fairly easy for everyone to get a hold of. It's Glenmorangie 12-year aged La Santa in sherry casks. This one is a very smooth drink. It doesn't have that harsh bite that a lot of whiskeys have. I would absolutely recommend having this one neat or with perhaps a single cube in it, and I would recommend it with a good Rocky Patel cigar. I enjoy various blends, various styles of the Rocky Patels, but I certainly enjoy it with this whiskey. I enjoy it actually with, I should say scotch. I always jarble it up, but it's a scotch. And I would recommend dipping it into the scotch, actually, to enjoy the blend between the cigar and the scotch as well.
That was very well stated. I was going to make a joke there, but, in all honesty, not to end on such a sentimental note, but actually, I'll tell you honestly, what I was thinking of was Pop-Up. And I was thinking about how neat it would have been for him to be able to listen to this. And I'm sure he's listening. But I'm sure, I was actually thinking, I'm just being honest on the spot here, I was thinking how awesome it would have been for him to be able to listen to this entire podcast and to close out in this way and for you to be as sophisticated as you were. Because he would have appreciated it. So, well spoken. It was very well done.
Fun fact, he did enjoy sipping this particular scotch. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, he certainly did. The Crypto Blondie apparently decided it was a great idea to shoot the bottle. And when I say shoot it, because Crypto Blondie, he could be known as Crypto Instant Gratification.
Gratification boy.
He would grab the shot glass or rocks glass and just pour a hefty amount into it and not sip it, no. And by the way, I would like to point out that this scotch is a huge sipping scotch because it's so smooth. It's a great finish. He would just shoot it. Before I knew it, he had half the bottle down. I'm not a rich man. I'm not a rich person. I don't come from wealth. I have nothing of wealth. And it took a little while for me to be able to afford that bottle of scotch. And he just shot it down like it was water, and he went on a 5-mile jog. So I didn't know what to do. I just let him enjoy it, and then I said, you know what? Fine. But there's something, CBG, that we have not touched on that I want to spread out to the listeners here that I think they would enjoy for a brunch. Now, everyone knows about...
Okay, go ahead.
Everyone knows about mimosas. So, my wife will call this the CryptoBringer's coffee. And she will say to me on a typical Saturday morning for game day on ESPN, or before we have the Octo Box on NFL Red Zone, she will say to me, would you like a CryptoBringer coffee? And I'll look at her and I'll pause and I'll say, God, I love you. Yes, please. Please give me that coffee. And a CryptoBringer coffee is the following. Take your normal coffee, pour it in. Then take about a shot to a shot and a half of Bailey's. And it could be a flavor Bailey's, which is totally fine. I will say that Bailey's Pumpkin is amazing in this drink. So if you get something like a Dunkin' Donuts K-Cup, you make your coffee or the ground stuff, you make your K-Cup, you pour in your Bailey's Pumpkin, and then you take Pinnacle Whipped Vodka, and you pour in another shot and a half, maybe 2. Then all of a sudden, you don't care that you have to wake up on Monday morning to go to work. You start to get a little more relaxed, and you're a little bit more about yourself and enjoying the person or people that you're with, or in the games that are on TV, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you don't really care that you're losing by 75 points in fantasy football. Yeah, Or you don't care that you're facing Alvin Kamara in the championship game on Christmas Day, and he decides to go for 6 touchdowns, even though you're setting a league record for points, and you still face someone who blew apart the league record that you just set because you faced Alvin fracking Kamara. I'm not angry though. I'm cool about it. So anyway, that is my suggestion. A shot and a half of Bailey's, shot and a half of Pinnacle Whipped Vodka. Maybe add another half shot in there for each to your liking. Add in a K-cup or so of your favorite type of coffee. I would recommend
what coffee? Yeah, I was going to say, what coffee do you do?
So, my wife is a huge lover of Starbucks.
Come on, I'm surprised.
But I will say that, you know, it's okay if you mix enough alcohol into it. You lose the burnt taste to it. But she loves that. That's fine. I'm a and this will not surprise CryptoBullGod at all. I'm a D&D fan. Dunkin' Donuts. Much like Dungeons and Dragons. I want Dunkin' Donuts because Sheetz and Wawa or whatever the hell else is on the East Coast that you drive up and down.
I love Wawa.
And well, no, but you can also get Royal Farms, and you can also get a variety of others as well on the coast. And you're like, no, I want Dunkin' Donuts. Because they give me, it's a little watered down as compared to the burnt BS that you get from Starbucks. But once you mix enough of those two things in there, you don't care. It's okay.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is the CryptoBullGod. My brother and I were having such a nice time that I forgot to hit the save button after we closed out. But not a big deal because we were essentially finished with the podcast. And there was so much that I edited out because we had such a nice time. We were up for about 4 hours just talking, shooting the shit a lot. But anyway, we were essentially at the end of the podcast, and we did close it out. God only help me if I can remember how we closed it out. But most importantly, I just want to say that, what you can expect from us moving forward is to help to educate you to understand the cryptocurrency market as well as bring a lot of humor along the way, going off on a few tangents that hopefully bring a smile to your face and that you appreciate. And we're thinking that this is going to be happening every 2 weeks. So until next time, we will both continue to bring you the crypto games.
Well, I've been enjoying this. By the way, I've been fucking loving this.
No,
this has been better than what I've been thinking for a couple years now. This is fucking great.
Yeah, I would say the first episode definitely has been. I envisioned it. Well, no, I envisioned it being a lot of fun, but it's actually been even more fun than I.
Yeah. It's been a blast.
But like,
I'd be in bed by now.
But one thing.